I was in one of the top trending gaming videos on YouTube. However, unfortunately, it wasn't my video I was being reacted to. The Angry Joe Show recently had a video that ended up on the top page of trending games, and of course, Diablo Immortal ended up in this list because it is the top worst games of 2022. Now, if you didn't know, your boy has been covering Diablo Immortal, and there's not that many YouTubers covering Diablo Immortal. So because of that, very often, anytime anyone dunks on Diablo Immortal, I end up appearing in one of these videos. Now, I have been extremely transparent in my feelings about this game and the problems with the game, and literally still to this day, I am making videos giving feedback on like the problems in the game because they still introduce new problems, and it's arguable in the latest patch they introduce even more pay to win. So I'm out here fighting the good fight, but Angry Joe as well has some feelings on the matter, so let's address some of them.
Diablo Immortal is everything wrong with good gaming. Blizzard should be ashamed of themselves.
Coming pretty hot right out of the gate there. Blizzard should be ashamed of themselves for taking the Diablo franchise and adding pay to win onto it. Not really going to hear any argument from me. Let's continue.
A meme game. The very definition of corporate greed and the lengths a company will go to sell itself out for whales.
Correct. Yeah, the monetization in this game is blatant. It's blatantly pay to win.
It get worse as you play the game. You get less powerful. Loot that spills on the ground starts to slow. The legendaries, you can't get them. Why? Why would all this happen? To lead your dumb ass to the storefront to fix all these problems.
Well, yeah, it does lead you to the store. Definitely to fix some of the problems. The problems mainly be you losing in PvP. A common misconception, legendary item drops don't diminish at all. Like you actually can continue to get legendary items perfectly fine. There's no cap actually on the grind. That was a lot of BS that was kind of spread around the beginning. The only monetization around legendary items is through Magic Find, but it's undetermined whether Magic Find literally does anything, and most of the legendary items aren't really the problem to grind because there's Paragon level cap, so typically there's not really a reason to keep grinding these legendary items. All that to say, there's problems in the game, but legendary items are not the problem.
Loop of Diablo has been monetized. I have a problem with that. That's not fucking the point of Diablo, to monetize that. And it's basically a Diablo 3 asset flip. There's no point. Go play Diablo 3 if you want an experience like this.
Well, this is a common misconception with Diablo Immortal. It's actually nothing like Diablo 3. Diablo 3 is a completely different game because it doesn't have both the combat rating system, which in my opinion is not a defense of Diablo Immortal. The combat rating system is actually quite bad, but the focus of the game is entirely on PvP in Diablo Immortal. The Shadow versus the Immortal system, literally the name of the game, is about the PvP-based system. In Diablo 3, Diablo 2, etc., all of the competition in the game was around PvE elements. In Diablo Immortal, PvE is 100% free to play viable for everyone. You can just farm until you have the necessary combat rating and you continue. It's not actually the part of the game that's competitive. Instead, they focus on PvP, which is where wells are basically welling to outwell each other in order to beat each other in PvP. Depends who you ask. Some of them will say that's not the case, but very often when you're buying strength in these types of games, you're buying it to beat another player, not another monster. Common misconception about the game.
It's rightfully slammed by the community not for its gameplay, but it actually has one of the lowest ratings on Metacritic ever because of the astronomical amount of cold hard cash that you need to drop to not only stay competitive, but go anywhere in the PvP in the game. Why get runes by grinding? Buy them. Swipe your credit card to level up your character. Status ailment? You got one? Well, you can go back to town. Why? Why do that when you could bust open your wallet? Fuck off, Activision. Sure, you could take a completely free route, refusing to spend any cash, but it takes you a ridiculous amount of grind and time compared to somebody who's just burning their cash. And you'll get maybe 1 or 2 gems a month versus an insane amount from someone who is paying and upgrading these at like $20 a pop.
So some interesting points being made. I'm aware of the fact that he's not aware of all of the things in the game. So some of the numbers that are way off, like 1 or 2 legendary gems a month, is not even realistically close to what free-to-play players are getting. You're getting significantly more of that. In fact, you can get up to like 16 free legendary crests if we really wanted to go there, or even potentially more. But that's beside the point. Runes are also not a monetizable thing. I mean, I guess you technically do get more runes, which you can craft like more legendary gems out of it if you're buying crests, but the actual ratio is terrible. Like no one's actually crafting gems in order to get your gems. Like you're just flat out buying them. But Obviously, these are points he just doesn't understand the game well enough to know these points, which are totally fine. His original point about like you can basically go to the store and just buy this stuff instead of taking forever, that's where really what he's getting at, which is the core of it, which is another way of basically saying the game is pay to win to make progress as compared to other games, which are not pay to win to make progress. That's basically the argument being made here, and I have no argument against that. He is correct. Let's continue.
A fully upgraded pity system where if you spend $100, then you get one of these fully maxed gems for free. Get this, it takes $110,000 to fully upgrade your character. To be fully geared, you're $110,000?
Yes.
Are you out of your mind?
It's actually worse than that. Those numbers are probably being a little bit generous. 110,000 would be to get to the max resonance, as far as I'm aware. Maxing your character is something different entirely. It actually takes 19,600 and I believe 38 normal gems to max out one spot of gem on your character, and there are 14 spots on your character if my math is correct. So we're talking, I don't want to do the math, but like 250,000 plus normal gems, which again, these are things that you can in fact purchase. So it's actually more expensive than 110 if you wanted to max out your character. They purposely set the ceiling at an unrealistic amount because the idea is to basically have an infinite grind, and they're instead selling you on the concept of how many of them you're getting over time. They're not trying to like, here's where you're supposed to be, everyone buy to $110,000. Instead, they're trying to set the bar so high that people effectively can't get there. I'm not aware of anybody in the entire game who has a fully maxed account. I think there are 0 people as the game stands.
They actually have the balls to say out loud that, oh, a lot of the negativity is based on misinformation. It's loot boxes and PvP. It's riddled with pay to win.
Okay, that is fairly fair, that there is problems in the game and not all of the negativity is based around misinformation. I would agree. However, in this video in which he says that he is factually giving misinformation about the game, his major points are correct, and the philosophy behind his opinion I also agree with, but there is factually misinformation in this video.
Get pop-ups constantly to surrender your wallet to this digital garbage. They have made sure to design the game in a way that below a certain level and outside of the end game, it seems reasonable until you hit those ugly walls. You even lose things that you pay for in this game if you don't continuously log in.
So as it stands, the best thing to do is to save all your normal gems, because we're not sure how the RNG is going to play out, whether or not that base that base stat increase is going to be like, oh, you have an A tier one or an S tier one. Like, we don't know how that's going to work yet. So just save all your normal gems, save all your platinum, because you're probably going to want even more normal gems. Maybe you want to start buying the normal gems off the market, for instance. Okay, so just focus on the normal gems.
Just because it might have solid graphics or the Diablo.
So he used my clip here of me saying not to use normal gems as a way to make an expression that when you purchase something, you lose the value of what you're purchasing. That wasn't the point I was making. I was giving an advice to people that have gems in the now that's saying they could actually gain more value in the future. So it's unfortunately a little bit against the point he's making there. However, whether he knows it or not, he is correct that they do have something in the game that actually does, if you don't continually log in, remove your value, which would be some of the boons. So you can buy the boons, which have like daily login bonus, and they added it where you would not receive those rewards if you just failed to log in. That has actually since been changed and no longer exists within the game. Now you receive all your rewards regardless.
Free gameplay loop doesn't make it a good game. It makes it all that much more sinister. Don't buy into Activision shit. Do not play this and do not give them money. I'd raise it 1 out of 10 on fucking principle alone.
Realistically, anytime you add something like this with gems, where it is going to increase the power of something, in this case, it's going to increase mostly your life and a little bit of your damage, Wells can just buy these. In fact, these are actually straight up in some flat cash purchase offers, just like the Blessing of the Worthy and stuff was. You can just straight out buy gems, and you can buy them every week and stuff. There's like the Gem Cutters pack and other things. So this is actually another pay-to-win mechanic on gems again, which if this actually comes out the way that they're explaining it, and it's not better than it looks, in my opinion, I'm going to call this probably the most tone-deaf update we've had since. We're adding Resonance 2.0. I'm actually not a very big fan of this. And that is where he ends his rant on Diablo Immortal. Now, I'm not against really in particular anything he said in there. I think some of the statements were factually inaccurate because he just doesn't play the game full time, and that's realistic to expect. But I think his sentiment of it's a pay-to-win problem, it's one of the problems in the industry, it's way too expensive, the amount of money you need to max out, it's not what the original Diablo is about. All of those points are well taken, and I agree with pretty much all of those points, and those are basically the feedback that myself, as well as the other Diablo partners I have seen, have been sending to Blizzard the whole time and continually telling them how we're feeling about this. I've seen them make strides towards improving the game on some of those fronts. I have not seen them get to the point where I feel the general overall public would do a No Man's Sky and reverse their opinion upon the game and start praising the game. I don't think that will ever be the case. I think this will end up being something that's heavily monetized all the way into its grave, and I don't believe it's going to affect Diablo 4 in terms of monetization. Some people are telling me I'm smoking copium, but look, if they're flat out lying to my face that Diablo 4 doesn't have pay to win and then we launch it and it does, well then fine. I am wrong, and I will admit that freely in the video, but they would have to be directly lying to everyone's face, which I find interesting, okay? That's pretty much my points on this video. Nothing too strong one way or another, but that's how I feel about it.